What's up, guys? Matt Brown from the LSR Podcast. Thanks for joining me and Dustin and Adam right here on the channel each and every week. And while you're here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and let us know in the comments if there's anything you'd like us to tackle in a future episode. But without further ado, so we were looking at deals that MGM, MGM, it's kind of, we don't talk about them near as much as we talk about DraftKings and FanDuel, whatever, but they've definitely have been active, right? I mean, when they went in, and this is not recent, but when they did the deal with GBC, and then they were some of the first to get some of these league deals and all that. So MGM has at least been active. We know what we heard on the conference call that they put out a few months ago as well, where they are basically stating that they're doubling and tripling down here on making sure that they're going to be a player in the industry. And then just this past week, Dustin, we get some word that there is even further investment in MGM as a whole, and sports betting was mentioned as one of the reasons.
Yeah, that and online gambling in its whole. MGM, there's a company named IAC, which is a holding company. It has invested in a lot of kind of tech companies over the years. It had recently split with Match Group and divested from that, and it put out a press release this week, said it's built up more than a 10% stake in MGM, worth more than $1 billion, and it said it did it largely on the long term of online sports betting and online gambling in the United States. So it's really interesting to see, to make that bet, and I don't think they thought this was going to be a huge return right away, as most of this stuff is, but it's a long-term buy on MGM, and it's an interesting thing to see happen. And they have capital as well. We've talked about how much capital is flowing into these companies. MGM and GBC and its joint venture put just $250 million into it. There's the potential for growth with this company, with IAC putting some money into MGM outside of this investment. So it's an interesting to see, and gives more teeth to the idea that MGM sees itself as a long-term serious competitor for number one or number two in the online sports betting space in the U.S.
And Adam, this is probably a good time. We do this, about once a month, once every 6 weeks, where we kind of say, look, we're reporting these numbers, but look at all these states where we don't even have online registration yet, where we don't even have apps, essentially. I mean, if you look at Mississippi, if you look at these different places. So while there are clear leaders in the market as we sit here in August of 2020, where that market and how that market might look in August of 2021 or August of 2022, more likely a couple of years down the road, where there's time to implement some of this stuff and sports comes back and things like that. But, I don't think it's crazy to assume that MGM, with that brand power, with all their locations, with some of these partnerships that they've done, could make up some ground. Now, does that mean they could overtake number one? I don't know. Probably not. I mean, it'd probably take longer than even that. But to think that they couldn't be almost synonymous as a number two-ish name in this market, I think is fair to say, at least.
I understand where you're coming from, Matt, and it's important that we establish what the landscape is right now, right? Essentially, just about 2/3 of national market share belongs to either FanDuel or DraftKings through the first 2+ years. Now, everyone else has sort of set targets around 10 to 15% market share. Everyone's kind of clawing at that number 3 spot. But the question over the 24 to 36 month horizon, and I think this is what drives the bigger investments like the one IAC has just made, is just how much cash is DraftKings and Flutter, how much are they willing to put in? How long can this enormous marketing push go? And once they gain that certain amount of market share, will it stick? Now, I think the one thing that goes against what we're talking about right here is that so far what we've seen is that there are not a lot of shoppers. There are not a lot of people going out there looking for the best offers and drawing their loyalty based on that. Like the first 2.5 years has been pretty sticky for people once they get into a certain sports betting app. That could change. Marketing has a way of changing that. MGM, with all of its league partnerships and with the money they're throwing in, certainly could change that. I would definitely caution against drawing conclusions at this point, but I would also say for those clawing at that number 3 spot, they need to control some things they can control and also probably need some help from things that they can't control.
Yeah, I think Dustin, if there's anything that we learned, and it's not apples to apples here, but I think if there's anything that we learned from the heyday of online poker, would be that you can have 4 to 5 really successful companies who are making a lot of money in online gaming throughout the course. So like while it's always DraftKings, FanDuel, and right now, yeah, as Adam mentioned, I mean, it is the vast majority of the money is heading DraftKings, FanDuel way in the action here. But we saw it kind of play out in the online poker space where, you know, the brands 3, 4, and 5, while they weren't the big two and PokerStars and Full Tilt, were still able to do quite well. And when you think about that, we still haven't popped in California and Texas and Florida, and whether that's going to happen anytime soon, we don't know. But these most populous states, there's still not mobile online registration there, obviously in New York as well. And we want to get mobile going there and stuff. So, I mean, number 3, number 4, number 5 could still be, a behemoth in this market.
Yeah, and we see it in the UK too, right? There's not a 1-2 dominance there. There's a bunch of brands that have a lot of market share and make a decent amount of money. So there's a roadmap to that. And like Adam said, I don't think anybody expects DraftKings and FanDuel to have 70% of market share everywhere for a long time. There's, some of that will erode, and it's a matter of who gets that and whether they can erode it to the point where they're surpassing those folks. Yeah, we sit here and say DraftKings and FanDuel can't spend this much money forever. Maybe they can. I agree. They probably cannot. But right now, as they're trying to establish that they can and will, and we'll have other avenues to capital as well. So, yeah, I agree. There's room to do it. But right now, you have to. We've said this before in the podcast. You have to have the will and the money to do it. At least MGM here seemingly has both, and they seem like a smart bet to kind of be that player that eats into their lead.
Guys, as a reminder, the full version of this podcast can be found over at LegalSportsReport.com, as can the written breakdown of every topic we talk about on the show each and every week. Thanks for watching.